I remember the first thing I thought and felt was, I don't want to live with this. It just felt like the most horrible possible thing that could have been said to me at that moment. I got it from a GP who'd never given the diagnosis before, didn't know a lot about the virus. So hearing it from her, and her being someone who was visibly distressed by the whole thing anyway, it was just like, it made it feel like a kick in the teeth more so than what it probably would if I had someone who was, you know, well versed in the reality of living with HIV, who could offer me sort of a real life perspective. What my GP did do was arrange for me to go and see an infectious disease specialist whose area has been HIV for, you know, the last 40 years. And one of the first things he said to me, which I remember was a real turning point, was, I'd prefer to be diagnosed with HIV than diabetes because it's now just such a manageable illness. And for me to hear that, you know, a week after being diagnosed, when I just felt like it was the most horrible possible scenario, to have someone who is, you know, so knowledgeable about the virus and who's been there since day one, it was just a really important turning point for me.
The doctor ran through all the results and he said, look, that's great, that's great. And then he said, oh, there's a problem here, it's HIV positive. And I just remember squealing, this high-pitched squeal, and then he stared at me really closely and was asking me how I got this. I was blubbering on saying, well, I've been divorced for a couple of years and I've probably slept with 4 people, and he's still staring at me. I think he was thinking, you know, is it anything else? He just said to me, well, you know, I'll ring this specialist at Prince of Wales. He might contact you tomorrow, but it's Christmas. If he doesn't contact you tomorrow, it may be a few days' time. Look, I don't know much about HIV. I'm a general practitioner. I left the doctor's surgery, called my girlfriend, and that evening we were still confused. And then I thought, well, Lifeline, you know, that's who you call if you've got a problem. So I called Lifeline and they referred me to Albion Street. And I went there the next day. They were fantastic. And they were able to dispel a lot of my fears of what I thought HIV was.
One of my friends came and she said very little. She just sat there and listened, and I did a lot of talking because I guess I was trying to use her as a sounding board to work out how this happened and come to terms with that. And another friend of mine actually flew in from interstate, and it was a real lovely thing. And when I told her, she just got up and said, I love you, sister, and gave me a hug. And it was all I needed. And it just felt good because I felt loved.
I was lucky at that time. One of my girlfriends, she went with me, and I already told her that I got a feeling that it's positive. And then she said, no, it won't be. And then after I came out from doctor's office, she said, how is it? I was smiling. And then she said, it's impossible, right? And I said, it's positive. And she was shocked, even more than me. I didn't tell my family until something else went wrong, and I was living with my uncle and my aunt, and then I had to move out. It's just how people see it from my country.
I was told in detention center by the nurses, and I rejected. I said, no, it's not me. It's impossible. You're telling me maybe it's a wrong diagnosis. It's not me. I refuse it. I was very shocked. The nurse who told me the news, she was the one who offered support. From her side, there was not any other support, so it was very difficult, very, very difficult times for me.
If I could have had that conversation with the doctor again, what certainly would have been useful for me is, one, that he didn't question how I got HIV, and then 2, a little bit more empathy, and 3, really giving me some tools and information about the virus, and then where to go, places like the Albion Centre or POSHET.